Now we're at the last portion of today's workshop, which is our panel discussion. And we found that particularly helpful in the past as family caregivers. Here's our chance to ask questions. This time, of course, it'll be in the chat. And of our next three guests, but I would like to formally introduce you to our newest. So, Dr. Sanchez, are you able to join us at this point?
Hi, yes,
You are.
I'm here.
Hey, I would love to welcome you and thank you so much for taking a little bit of time out of your busy life. And I literally lifted the introduction off of Access Community Health because I really liked it. And maybe someday we'll actually meet in person. So Dr. Sanchez works collaboratively with patients to help them identify their strengths and define goals. When she meets a patient for the first time, she wants to really build a connection. Her therapeutic style is strengths based and rooted in mindfulness and cognitive behavioral techniques. She received her PhD from Palo Alto University in 2013, is fluent in Spanish, and has extensive experience working with adults, including seniors. So, welcome. And I'm so glad that you're here to join in this panel discussion part. Now, I also want to introduce Brian Lawrence again, and then Mark Rahman again. Mark, are you here?
Hey, Mark.
Greetings and salutations, one and all.
The answer is yes. Okay. I think that to start this out, maybe a way to do this is to kind of get things going. I don't have a list of questions to throw at you, but maybe talk a little bit. I could say, how are things doing in today's world with the pandemic, or are you seeing any problems around people suffering and thinking of suicide? We're on the subject matter as it is all day, or however you want to frame this. It's is pretty much. And Brian, you've done this before, and Mark, you've done this before. So, who would like to get this going here?
Let Dr. Sanchez get us going.
Yeah.
I would love it.
Yeah, so thank you for having me. And I think this is a really important topic to discuss. And yes, with regards to the pandemic, unfortunately, yes, I would say we have really seen a big uptick in depression and suicidal ideation since the pandemic has begun. And I've seen it in my practice with adults and with younger kids as well. And I would say, probably for the same things everybody's experiencing. There's just a lot of anxiety, a lot of unknown, and we're all, just feeling all of the effects of the crisis. I would say for the patients that I've come across, a lot of them, there's job loss, there's disconnection from the things that they normally do to help them feel involved in the community because of the need to socially distance, loss of connection to friends, and being able to do what they normally do in life. And so when you have job loss, when you have loss of relationships, or there's also significant family conflict as a result of stress. Stress has increased in people's lives, so there's more conflict in the homes, more family difficulties, and that's increased stress, more isolation, loss. All of that increases risk of suicide. in people.
What do you tell them?
Yeah, it's a good question. More or less, it's, they're not alone and we're all experiencing these things. It's normal to feel stress and anxiety. It's normal to feel sad and feeling that loss and to kind of have to grieve the loss and of what's been considered normal and being in this new normal. And also to learn how to kind of control the controllables. Can only control what we can what we can actually control. We can't control what other people do, how other people respond to the pandemic. We can't control what other people are doing, more or less, whether they socially distance. We can only control what we do. So yeah, and hopefully there's an end in sight.
Well, here's a question actually we can throw out to everyone. And thank you for your answer. Caring for someone who is chronically suicide takes a devastating toll on loved ones. The close confines of COVID deepens this. How can we care for ourselves?
That's a really good question.
So, yeah.
For me or for anybody else on the panel?
For you, and actually, it would be great to hear from not only you, Mark and Brian on their thoughts on that too, but we'd love to hear from you first.
Yeah, so self-care is very important, and everybody has different things that they do for self-care. But in working with my patients, I try to help them brainstorm what are their interests, what do they normally do before the stressors were coming on. Can they engage in those things again? But self-care is just first and foremost remembering to sleep. Remember to get some sleep. Remember, sleep is extremely important, so getting rest. Remember to eat. Sometimes we forget to eat and skip meals, so remember to do those basic things. Take time to make sure you're taking care of your personal hygiene. Sometimes we just kind of forget to take care of just the basic stuff, just personal hygiene, taking showers. Go outside for a walk, commune with nature. Play with if you have animals, play with your animals. And petting your dog or your cat is very therapeutic. And it's reaching out to loved ones as well, reaching out to your friends, reaching out to your family.
Yeah, and having a routine. Folks are getting off their sleep cycles, or especially not being in school, missing out on so much that they feel they've been missing out on. Trying to find ways to connect with people, right? Get that face to face safely, of course, but yeah, getting that routine. The hours slip away from folks sometimes. They go hours and then they feel down because they feel like they haven't accomplished anything that ends up feeding on itself. So,
These are all advice that we would give to our loved ones who have a diagnosis, which goes to show that we are not impermeable. We are not invulnerable to having a problem of our own caused by the situation we find ourselves in. So, sunlight, exercise, regular schedule, eat right, sleep right, all of those things are good. And self-care comes in different flavors as well, I believe. There are things we do that are just take the pain or the ache away for the moment. A bubble bath, watching a fun movie, little things that make us feel better in the moment. And then there are other things that we can do that feed us, feed who we are as a core person. And so Marcia and I spend a huge amount of time with NAMI and helping others. And that's something that feeds our inner core and provides self-care for us, even though nominally it looks like we're sort of doing things that would actually take away from us. It feeds us inside. And so that's another level of self-care. And ultimate self-care is being able to deal with the stressors in your life that are causing you problems. You're making it so your loved ones can have the best life they can have. If you can do that and turn a negative into a positive, that's probably the best self-care you can do. And it's also the hardest. Self-care is not a straightforward thing. It's not easy. And it's like everything else, you need a support network for it. It's one of those things you shouldn't try to do on your own. If you can manage that now in COVID. And a quick on the previous question about COVID and suicidality, my daughter, who ended her life April of last year, um, was either constantly or regularly thinking of it, but she had made a conscious decision to not go through with it. And I think that COVID was sort of the ton of lead that broke the camel's back. And it brought in, as well as all of the other stressors, an actual confrontation betwixt us and her, because we're kind of not young anymore. And so we're COVID, uh, it's we're at risk a great deal. And so our worry about what she's doing when she's out and not likely to be doing the best of care for herself and what she'll be bringing back brought us into conflict at a time when she was even worse off. And, we were, uh, after, more than 20 years of trying to provide care, uh, we weren't in the best place to do our best. So yeah, COVID, I think is what went over the edge.
Sorry to
Wasn't the
hear that.
cause, but it was over the edge.
Sorry to hear that.
My condolences.
And I lost a brother to COVID. And so that's, I literally died from COVID. Um, it seems to me, and maybe it depends on the geography, but it seems to me it's difficult in some areas to access medical treatment and mental health treatment. And I'm just curious what your opinion is around telehealth, telepsychiatry. If you feel that is, I mean, if you feel that is as robust as the patient sitting in the room or the client sitting in the room with you.
Yeah, COVID definitely moved us towards doing more telehealth than we would have had it not happened. But I find that so much happens, so much you get so much more from a client when you're in the room with them. And for those that are safe, especially some couples, especially last summer, being able to come up and to meet in person, like one set of parents said, this is our only chance to get away from the kids for a little while, and it's good for them. So I think it's a dual-edged sword. You can reach more people. Folks that aren't safe feel better about it, but um, I always feel like I'm not quite getting as much as I would if the person's in the room with me. But if it's telehealth or nothing, definitely great to have telehealth. And the state did actually make it easier. Amazing that the BBS actually made something easier for us to do. They relaxed some of the constraints and requirements. So a shocker.
Funny how these things work. Yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm.
which was good. That was very helpful. So.
So
I would say too, yes, I think it has been like pros and cons. on the one hand, I think more patients have attended their appointments more regularly than before because now if they forgot, they can actually just hop on. And so there's been more attendance. That's is what we've noticed. There's drawbacks though too. It's there you lose a little something in the telehealth with regards to maybe there's some delays in being able in the technology being able to hear. So and then if it's over the phone, you're not really able to see people's faces. But the video technology has really helped and helped people to feel safe and engage more. We've tried to overcome privacy issues. We just making sure that the client is having privacy in their home. Make sure that there's nobody else around. So if there's been any concerns with that, what Access has done is been able to provide um, where the person can arrive in their car and be given a tablet and being able to use a computer tablet to talk with their therapist in their car. So that's been one thing we've been able to do. But yeah, there's been drawbacks and there's been some pros.
I've always been concerned about, especially if it's somewhat new and you're doing the telehealth, that maybe from the neck up, they look okay, but if you're not seeing the overall person, maybe there's some unknown medical problem that could use extra help from other doctors. So I always have that tucked in the back of my head as a possibility. Do you look for how a person appears to be okay, or do you ask, you know, about general health? And
Yeah, I think I've had to um, be more asking about general physical um, presentation of things over the phone. If they're not really able to do video, then that's been really tricky. um, and yeah, there's you have to pay more attention to that. It's hard to assess that.
Right? If there's quite a bit of distress going on, obviously, if they're in crisis, telehealth isn't the best way to go. So, but then on the flip side, by being able to see a client's what where they live, like I had one, he actually picked up his computer and showed me around his room, and you can get a lot from that you wouldn't when someone comes into a session either. And it was actually really good for building rapport too. Both Star Trek fans, so don't tell anyone else that. But being able to kind of something that would have come up that wouldn't have happened if he just come into the office. So, where did Marcia go?
Hmm.
Mark, you're in charge.
I'm in charge. Okay. Um, so given COVID, I think COVID is still, the gorilla, elephant, whatever in the room these days, and it looks like it's going to last longer again. As the surges happen, are we going to see an equal surge in mental health related matters? I would guess yes, that both because of how long it's been going on and because the anticipation that we would get out from under this when the vaccines came in, and now it looks like we're not going to because of the Delta variants and such, that will cause a new crash kind of thing. And while I did the statistics, we don't have numbers for later than prelims for 2019, and what 2020 did to us. I don't know yet. CDC hasn't published anything on that. So I know there's going to be a lot of work on it, but we won't see that for a while. Have you guys got an estimate of you, doctor? You said that you thought the suicide rate was in fact up over the last year.
I don't have any statistics about that.
Anecdotal.
Anecdotally, I, I anecdotally, ideation has increased, but I fortunately haven't um, personally seen patients go. Oh, but hearing from people, I hear other people really struggling with just the fear of the unknown, and also losing people to COVID, losing people and their support systems, and it seems that the trends are trending that way, but it's hard to know. There's been some positives and negatives. We have the vaccine, and the risk of death is less, so that's good. Yeah.
I'm back.
There she is.
We missed you.
I probably missed the whole profound thing of, the mysteries of life right when it dropped there.
I think it makes sense, Mark, that intuitively it would go up. Not, obviously have to wait for the data, but this underlying theme of just grief, right? Not just losing people to death, but loss of what was, what happened in my senior year, what happened to all of these like life transitions, not being able to have a funeral service, not weddings getting changed, and not being able to do those things that we normally do. And there's this sense of loss for a lot of people. And the only thing I can try and help clients do is, okay, who do I want to become through this process, right? But if you're so overwhelmed with grief, you're just not there yet. So, lost opportunity. I'm supposed to graduate and get a job, and these stages, and throw in the stuff with the economy. So, I really try to take a grief informed approach to a lot of my work with clients.
And missed opportunities. Some of my friends have college age kids who weren't able to get internships because they couldn't be there in person, which means that they're now way down the list in terms of competitiveness with others who were able to get internships.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I lost everything from the chat. So if there were any questions in the chat box, unless they started a minute ago, I'm not able to retrieve.
You haven't missed anything.
I haven't missed anything. Okay. Yeah. All right, all of you out there, do you have any questions that you would like to ask? Anything you and please do put it in the chat. This is our time to ask the experts.
Feel like Fraser Crane waiting for the phone lines to line up. Roz, do we have any calls?
Yeah, but
Roz, I have to start singing. You don't want me to start singing? Don't ask
hey,
okay. I was just informed that the chat was disabled when our host so unexpectly.
And I have no idea.
So I've re-enabled it. You can now It's working now.
There we go.
It is. Okay, thank you. Now I feel a little better about this. So
More connected.
we're connected again. Yeah.
Yeah.
Chat was just okay. So here we go. Um, I wonder, Dr. Sanchez, I'm leaning on you. Can you tell us, for those of us who live in Livermore, Dublin, Pleasanton, about the Access Bridge? I would love to get that word out. Would that be okay?
Yeah, I can tell you about a little bit about the bridge. It is a project that's become available, actually been up and running for very short time, maybe about 2 months, and it's comes from the cities of Dublin, Livermore, and Pleasanton, so it's available to anybody living in those cities at no cost. Where if anybody's experiencing an urgent mental health crisis, um, we have on call a therapist and a care coordinator who can do a quick assessment of what's going on, um, and a care coordinator can help with facilitating more longer term care. So it's kind of like bridging a gap in the need of services for people who are uninsured or insured, um, and it's a limited number of sessions, but it's a nice way to bridge that gap.
So the criteria is primarily where you live that can access the service. But we've had so little in that area that it's a godsend. That we
Mhm.
have something now, and wow, yeah, it's fantastic. Yeah. And
Yeah,
we in NAMI Tri Valley will do everything we can to promote this in any capacity that we can, because we know how important that is to have this.
it is. Yeah, and it's been up for a very short time, and we've done very minimal advertising for the program. But even so, we've still seen a tremendous need, and we've received calls from people with recent trauma, depression, anxiety, as well as family members who are seeking help for their loved one. So it's been
Great.
helpful for them too.
There's some questions on the chat. Um, let's see, and this is open to all three of you. There's so much grief due to COVID. How how do how to work it through more effectively on the grief? Oh, is that Shafang?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It's oh,
Yeah, sometimes I'll get folks that think they need therapy just because they're going through grief, and there's a difference between having to do this grief work, this like normal, sadness working through, and then maybe starting to have some really negative, not helpful thoughts about like it's all my fault. I'm not I'm not worthy of happiness. If we're starting to get stuck in our grief, that's when it's good to see a therapist. But part of it is just working through. And Kubler Ross, one of them passed, the other one's still alive, and they wrote a wrote a book, a very good book. It's called because they came up with those 5 stages of grief, but the book is called I believe it's called The Sixth Stage of Grief, and it's what's the meaning from this loss. What is it do I have to learn from myself down the road? And that's difficult when we're in the real throes of things, but somewhere, somehow, um, there's something for me to gain something out of this, kind of like the whole concept of post-traumatic growth, right? Through this awful process, what good can come out of it? sometimes that may take a while to see, but maybe it's a new appreciation for the little things.
And I think that recognizing that it's not going to go back to the way it was before,
Yeah.
you've had a life-changing event, and so your life is changed. And accepting that you can't make it right again, but you're just going to live a different life. I think accepting that is also important.
Hmm.
Um, it's becoming more and more difficult to find a therapist because they're not accepting new patients or their providers have an outdated list. What alternative professional help would you suggest to those in need?
Is this they are not accepting new patients? Who, not sure who. Is
Well,
this
this
like
is
kind of a general
common
experience?
from our family members, is that they'll go to their PPO list of preferred providers given to them by the mental health carve out, call 50 of them, get a call back from 5 of them, of whom 4 are not taking uh, uh, any new patients, and the 5th one is really not that familiar with whatever problem you've got. So yeah, it's really frustrating out there, especially given the increased demand placed on the system by both the Affordable Care Act, meaning more people have access to therapy now, and COVID has increased the demand on its own. So yeah, it's really good out there.
By alternative professional help, I'm wondering maybe like the idea of spiritual advisors can be very helpful too, right? No matter your faith, going either your guru or your pastor, um, being able to connect with somebody, right? There's a, it's not just the psychological. There's a biopsychosocial and spiritual component of our lives, right? Whatever that might look like for you. That's an alternative too.
uh,
Yeah, I agree, and I've seen that. I've heard anecdotally how it's been a problem finding therapists, and it's a frustrating process. Yeah, I agree with Mark. Reach out to your spiritual advisors, preacher, minister, um, and I hear also about better help or talk was it talk space, those other kind of platforms, mobile platforms. I think it's more, I guess, immediate.
Are they
So
any good? You heard
I
any?
don't have any personal or anecdotal um,
Hmm.
knowledge about that. I just know that they exist.
and the most affordable ones, of course, are going to be the ones who are doing intern work and getting their hours. And generally, if you've had any experience out there of seeing the quality of work and how well they're supervised, the programs that are in this area, how would you rate them? I mean, do you supervise any interns yourself?
I We do have one intern, not not in school, so getting postdoc out, post degree hours. I I know that Palo Alto University uh, has a clinic called the Gronowski Clinic over in Palo Alto. That's serviced all by all interns currently receiving or in school for their doctorate or master's. Um, and so that one is a low fee clinic, but it is all the way over in Palo Alto.
We have trainees and interns up at our counseling center. They're lower fee, and then Discovery Counseling Center in Danville too is another one. There's some opportunities there. So.
There's another question. Um, is there any talk of the new program turning into a mobile crisis? New program. This is from Lisa. Are you talking about the Access Bridge program, or the urgent mental health care? Okay, 2 messages.
She said yes. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. No. It's all telehealth. So there's a telephone line. But there, no, at this moment, there's not talk of a mobile crisis team, unfortunately.
So we have a
Peggy said a caution to be careful with spiritual advisors. We have relatives who blame Sarah's illness on her religious belief systems, that she didn't follow God's laws. Well, yeah, that's just a horrible thing to have happen. A trusted professional spiritual advisor, right? Yeah. But no, there's a lot of bad things done in the name of religion out there too. So definitely someone who you trust. So thanks for bringing that up, Peggy. Yeah.
So there's another question that Shelley writes. I keep getting referred to psychologytoday.com for psych professionals. Is this the recommended place to find someone?
Quite a few of our therapists use Psychology Today.
So you have a thumbs up on that.
Yeah, I'd get a list from them before I got a list from Yelp. But again, what you get is a big list, and you're going to have to do the footwork. And just first to get in the door, and then when you do, to try and make sure the fit is correct, that you've got somebody that is good to work with for you.
It is. That's so true, because the common factors model, right? 80% of success is the hope you have in therapy and the therapeutic relationship you have. And sometimes you just don't click with your therapist, and it's important to try again. It's not uncommon to have a bad experience and then you don't want to go back. Sometimes you have to. I get that, but to try again to see if you can get a good fit with somebody.
Okay, I think any more questions that anyone would like to ask?
Iris had sent after my talk, Iris on the iPhone, but I wasn't able to respond, talking about trying to get a hold of folks at Santa Rita when there's an issue with bridge medications. And I totally get that. Staffing is very, very challenging for mental health out there, and just trying to be very persistent, squeaky wheel. If you can't get someone at the jail, maybe trying to get a hold of, you have to go to the director's office or what have you, but trying to, just having to be persistent about that. But I totally get that. It's not the most ideal system out there. I will say that, but being the squeaky wheel, being persistent, please, because that's very important to try to get your loved one those bridge medications when they're in custody. So.
Thank you. Okay, anything else anyone has to add or would like to know or ask or say? Okay, so from Peggy, the outro music, if I'm pronouncing that right, is from the social justice album Manam or Rohith Jayanaman and Asha Ramesh, who are important members of the mental health support community in Fremont. Okay, gotcha. Thank you, Peggy. I want a copy of it. I like it. So I know it was kind of a rocky start, and it's been a long day, but I got to tell you, this has turned out to be quite an experience on Zoom. And like I said, we're novices, but I think we're we're going to get good at this because I have a feeling Zoom is going to stay for a while. Dr. Sanchez, I just want to make sure, kind of circle back to you. I just want to make sure anything else you would like to mention or anything that you'd like to say further. I'm not trying to put you on the spot, but it's I just want to make sure we're not forgetting you either. So
I think you might be muted, Doctor.
This is my first time being on a discussion panel like this, so this is a good experience. I am, curious to hear what people's questions are, and I'm sensitive to feeling, the concerns that are out there. I would encourage, everybody to try to, whether you're taking care of anyone or yourself, part of self-care is to get treatment for yourself too. And in order to help others, you have to be able to also help yourself. And so taking care of yourself is really important. And so that could be in therapy or finding your own ways of doing that outside of therapy too.
Brian, do you have anything to add to this before we close for the year?
Well, that sleep, diet, and exercise, it's so important for mental health. Also, too, getting in to see your doctor, right? Sometimes we may think there's something, a mental disorder going on, but we want to make sure that we're being sure to rule out medical conditions as well. And then finally, everybody has strengths. It's very easy to focus on our problems, but maybe looking at when's a problem not as bad. What are my strengths? What are the things that I bring to the table, right? And just taking care of each other, But thank you for letting us speak today. Nice job saving the technology this morning. That must have been a whole lot of fun when that happened.
I think I'll go and get a session just for the anxiety it caused.
You deserve a free session for that.
Well, Mark,
but thank you for all the participants too. It's very difficult when we care about someone with a serious mental illness, and just such great advice, especially from Ben about that. Just expressing that concern, not being afraid to ask them if they are thinking of harming themselves, and just being persistent, being an advocate for each other. So.
Love it. Thank you. And Mark.
We all need to be connected. And so we're not that much different from our loved ones. It's just because they have the diagnosis doesn't mean that they're all that different from us. We're just as susceptible. So when you provide for them connections so they aren't alone, provide for yourself. When you make sure that they have a function that is useful to everybody else and they can get positive feedback from it, do it for yourself, and be sure you give that positive feedback on a regular basis, even when you don't feel like doing it for whatever reason, and do it for yourself as well. As Lynn said, it's real easy for us to really come down hard on ourselves because of any imagined shortcoming. Really give yourself a pat on the back because you stood up again today in spite of yesterday.
Self-compassion is very important.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much for all three on our panel today. And I'm going to look at all the participants and please fill out the Survey Monkey. I have the link. And oh, did you just put that in too, Mark?
Yes, I did.
Okay, so that's twice, two chances here. It's only 4 questions, easy, just a second of your time, but it's very invaluable to us in our future planning. So we will definitely be back next year. And I'd love it if it was face to face, but it may be Zoom. And you know what? We're going to get good at this. So thank you all. And I'm going to close out the
It's been
workshop for
a
today.
great team. Thank you all for the contributions.
Great job, guys. This is Lynn. I'm signing off.
Oh, bye, Lynn.
So, goodbye, everybody. Take care.
Bye, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you, Jennifer.
Take care, everyone.
Bye.
நீதம் ஒன்று அத்தனை